I will also get another mic just to kickstart the discussion, and feel free to also to speak whatever language you prefer. Alice, metti qua, così ti vedo. So it's relatively clear to me also from what we have heard so far that let's say these extreme events will stay with us for some time, even more. My question is, what role has the prevention? What can we do in advance, actually, besides empowering civil protection in the emergency management? What can we do besides while we are not still in emergency, or we are in an emergency, but it's kind of a chronic one? So that would be my question. I don't know if you want to kind of briefly comment on it. Who would like to start?
So besides the activities in the emergency phase, I think that we have to improve the, how can we say, the unspectacular activities of measurement, monitoring, planning, and organizational activities. So until now, I think that these activities, this quite unspectacular activities of monitoring, or also the activities of research and innovation that we have to increase and to push these activities to have more data for a forecast and also for alerting. One other focus that we have to do is to unit the data. We did not need I don't know a lot, or 10 or 20 platforms or data lakes that we need to unit the information and to visualize to the decision makers, but also to the population, what effects can the climate change have. So in the last presentation, we heard and we saw a lot of data, a lot of possible changes, a lot of uncertainty, but we have to talk about the effects, so the impact in sense of events, but also impact in sense of financial and monetary impact that events and changes can have in the future.
Thank you. If I may also add a comment on this, especially the data on the impacts and the damages and the loss, it's a very important, let's say, deficiency, so to say, still. And in TRANS-ALP, we had tried very hard to collect as much as possible evidences about that, and we really had a hard time collecting this data. So this would be really one of the directions to really push forward in the next future.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague of the functional center, and I think we need to cooperate more also between regional or functional center or abroad, this center that works on, because with these extreme events, you know, the reaction then is the same in all countries, in all regions. So we need to homogenize also the operative procedure, how to react, because at the end, you know, we have always the same problem. So I think we need to work more on to make, you know, also national or international public operational procedure to finalize and to enhance our resilience in such kinds of events, because they are so fast that we need to react in a different way.
I mean, I think what would be interesting is to understand better the likelihood of these extreme events, because I think from at least from my experience from climate scenarios, if you look to the future, often things are aggregated, models are not convection able, so this was already mentioned. So in my experience, some of the extreme events we see now, we would have not expected 10 years ago, even looking to climate scenarios. And I think there you should somehow cope with that. And this is on one hand on a data level, so simply to improve model resolution, make models more convection enabled, but also to use more narratives about plausible extreme events, even compound events, so where things happen either in parallel or even in a sequence, like fire and then snowbreak and then the drought, because these information you will not find in climate scenarios, but they are happening, so we see that already, and actually we have to prepare to such compound events, and I think that's one of the challenges, how to deal with that from a data-driven point of view, but also how to complement data-driven scenarios with more narrative scenarios. Yes, yeah, and we are going to try that. So actually, there's a very nice follow-up activity where some of the partners will also be involved. So we, together with the province and other partners like SAMC, for example, we are starting. Actually, we have already started officially, and we are starting an Interact project called X-RISC-CC, which is exactly dealing on that. So how to better understand extreme events and the impacts, and how to improve the management of these events. So basically how to deal with the unexpected and to consider this non-stationarity, which you mentioned in the beginning.
Thank you. That's very good news.
Thank you. I just wanted to add or underline what was already said, that the continually observation of events and also continually improving also the observational databases is really a very important topic, because we see that it's more and more difficult to keep a network because it's expensive, and but this is the backbone of our analysis, and also the assessment of the extremeness and the impacts and the relation to climate change. And this is something where I would step in. That is very important to have good observational data. And it costs money, yes, but it's also rather important for a good extreme event and impact assessment, and also for future assessments. Mm-hmm.
If I can add, to be honest, I don't think that in the next 10 years we will be able to improve our capability to forecast very localized in time and space event. I don't think that we will have enough model, having also the convection permitting model. We are using a sites of 2 kilometers. Then our scale of predictability is 7-8 kilometers square. Then, to be honest, I think that, of course, monitoring is important, is very relevant for the advancement of the science, but we need to consider also to work on the vulnerability. Because I would like to make an example. If you consider the Ischia, what happened in Ischia, we had, this was an extreme event because we overcome the threshold of 100 return time period of precipitation in less than 1 hour. And then in that moment, it was not possible for the civil protection to make nothing, because the elapsed time between, also if we had radar, we had very short time to make something, half an hour. This was very hard. And we have now in the Ischia, in the isle of Ischia, about 7 different in situ weather stations. Then the situation could be clear. Of course, the radar can improve the evaluation of precipitation and to provide a casting tool, but we need also to work on the vulnerability. This is very, very relevant, because this extreme event that we expect are very fast, are very localized, and we need to improve our capability to be prepared to manage this. And we need to be honest also with the population about this point. Okay, we need to work on the awareness. And I think that the scientific community has a responsibility at this point, because for example, we stress too much the concept of the uncertainty, but our model uncertainty is not the society uncertainty. We need to change a little bit our way. Perhaps this is not our work. Perhaps we need to create new competencies. We need to find something that is not physics like us, but is something that is more able to communicate this aspect. And we need also to squish our data to have information, not data, but information. We need to provide an added value using our data. I think that for me, this is one monitoring, and this is another important topic.
Thanks. I completely agree with this point. And yeah, for instance, for sure, monitoring is a very important thing. Also to, of course, increase our understanding of other variables that are not only precipitation and temperature, but of course, all the other processes. And this could also allow to increase our confidences in the in the outputs of the models. But yeah, this is extremely important, these points, because I think, again, that this very relevant thing is to change really the narrative, so that the increase of extreme, or maybe the changes in extreme events cannot, let's say, so far these events are considered always an emergency, and so you always have to act in emergency mode. But the climate models, of course, cannot say when exactly an event can occur. But even basing on using the climate simulations that are available, we can say that some of these extremes are going to increase with a certain range of uncertainty, but in this range of uncertainty, we have changes in this extreme. So somehow, at certain time, they can happen. And so this adaptation and preparedness is definitely extremely important in the population, of course, and in the practitioners. So, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, considering this uncertainty issue, I have always the feeling that policymakers or decision makers are not very keen with our uncertainty bars. And if they see the uncertainty being from zero change to 50% more, they say, well, in the best case, we have a zero change. And I think this has also to be changed and to constantly communicated towards policymakers that this uncertainty range however points in a certain direction, although we don't know the exact change, not yet, but we see a change that is plausible from our understanding of the system and what we observed. And this is something where yeah, we should work on to have this not to leave everything the hands on the table, because there is a huge uncertainty bar, which I have the feeling is often the case.
Maybe I can share something which we discussed during the coffee break, which is a bit related to that, and this is on overload or overload cases, because I mean, until now it was relatively safe in an like engineer style of risk management, so that whatever you calculate with a 300-year return period event, and then you think you have enough buffer for everything. So now with this uncertainty, you don't know what will be the most extreme plausible event you can consider. Maybe it's 500 or 600 years or whatsoever. We saw even more than 1,000-year return period in the market case. So the question is, what happens in an overload case? Is it like we are safe if we are below and we are completely lost if we are beyond? Or do we soften the border in the way we manage the risk, so that even if it's beyond the overload, we are not completely lost, you know, not like a ship which is built for a certain load, and if it's overloaded, it sinks. So this should not happen. And I think this is something which risk management has to consider, also as a reaction to the uncertainty. So because we cannot give safe borders like engineers did until now, basically with a stationary return period approach.
So I would like to add also that maybe we need to work more also to what people know about also the alert system, how to react, how is the behavior that they have to do, because it's still, a missing link for civil protection. If we do good alert, many times people don't know in which color they are in their zone. So I think we need to work a lot on that, and also to involve more also the mass media on that, because at least in our event, we were like destroyed by mass media. They write and they give news really with the wrong items, wrong ideas of what's going on. And so it was really, that affects also our system. So it's a wrong information just goes around. It's also a problem for future reaction of the population. So I think research center and public administration must work more together to form also population and also young researchers that can work in these fields.
Yes, it's quite tragic that you were destroyed 2 times. So one time for the by the extreme event, and the second time by the media. So I agree with you that we have to collaborate with media, and that also it's a responsibility of the mass media to help us to communicate this climate change, the impacts, and the uncertainty. I noticed that maybe also you have quite difficulty to communicate already. So the hazard mapping, the certification of the hazard maps. So you can imagine what difficulties we have to communicate other extreme events with the uncertainty that can occur in the future. But in some time, or we notice extreme events in our region, in other regions, in other countries. So in the future or in the next year, we have to deal with them, and also the importance of a climate resilient special planning that you mentioned before. This is also the title of a short paper that TRANS-ALP Action Group 8 produced in the last year. So we have a lot of papers. We had a lot of indications, but it's the time to implement them and to act, and not only to react.
Completely agree. And later on, we will hear more about TRANS-ALP from you, Willis, the afternoon. Just as a reminder. We have time for maybe another round of comments. I don't know if it makes sense. So it's clear that, I mean, we started the project looking at very large area events, synoptic scale events which are cross-border, which affect more than 1 or 2 or 3 regions. At the same time, seems that however strong VIA was, the problem was more in what happened afterwards. The cascading effects, the recovery, the fact that many different processes started to interact with each other. From the perspective of the damages and losses, are those events, such as the ones that we've seen in the Marche region, much more dangerous because they are much less predictable, because they are, let's say, much more intense at a certain extent. Am I right that there is this kind of 2 tracks actually of large scale, really extreme events, but somehow with a dynamics which is a bit more consistent with the protocols of civil protection, and there are small scale events or small area events which are easily getting out of the track and be probably, let's say, they can really challenge the limitations of the civil protection authorities. Is this a factor, or do you see two classes of events in the future? How this would change also?
Just to start from a kind of meteorological kind of view, I mean, this was really astonishing in this region. This huge precipitation amount, that the persistence of the systems precipitating, and also the fact that it was kind of the worst factors accumulating to a huge event, and this kind of black swans which may occur have to be kept in mind. But I think it's really hard to adapt to those, or even but however, being aware that however the climate is changing, those events are able to happen. This is very, very important, because when I saw the maps and the analysis, I was really thinking there were so many just bad luck things here going on. And it's really hard to adapt to those, or to consider those. So I think, yes, there might be a difference, because Vaya was an extreme event, but it was not like this big black swan, never to be expected. And this one is from my perspective a bit different, I think. Yeah, but I don't know how the others see it.
Yes, in this kind we have not many experiences until now. So what could happen with such great or cross-border events or effects after Vaya? We had in 2018 we had Vaya. 1 or 2 years later we had the snowfall, which cut the trees. After this 3 years later, now we have the bark beetle areas, and I don't know what we have in 4 or 5 years in the future. So there are several possibilities, but I think that the experiences of what can be happened in this you said it before, in this compound or cascading effects. Also, one aspect that we did not talk yet is the blackout event. So, for example, after in the forest fire areas, if there would be a infrastructure of energy, so maybe that in Slovenia or in other countries there could be an effect also on the energy.
Correct.
Maybe I have a question to the meteorologist related to that, because I mean, I'm not a meteorologist, but in my impression, Vaya storm, and maybe even at least the let's say size of the summer drought this year was also something unexpected in a way. I mean, also Vaya storm, I don't know, for South Tyrol, I just remember that we spoke already 10 years ago with foresters about the likelihood of huge storm events, and they said, no, this usually is not happening in South Tyrol. So my feeling would be that there are also large-scale unexpected events, even if they should be better covered, so the atmospheric patterns in climate scenarios, so than the small-scale events. But the events we saw, the large-scale events, had some surprise in it, at least. Maybe if a drought is not unexpected, but to my knowledge, this was a more 500-year return period drought in Europe, so it was not expected in a certain sense, and even not the size and the persistency of the drought, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, we have to keep in mind the scales of the different processes. So small scale thunderstorms, really hard to imagine, to model. That's also what we preach in talks. So these small scale things are really hard to simulate and to project and so on. But on the other hand, we have effects and events that are really large scale, and drought is a kind of a typical large scale event, as are heat waves, as we have seen in the northwestern North America the year before, which can be unexpected. And the things like droughts in Europe and the 500-year return period of the event now tells us just that there is an event space that's even wider than what we expected from our knowledge of the past decades. And then one has to ask himself if we are already prepared for actual climate, you know, because things can happen and climate change could make things even worse. But the thing is, such things as this drought is something that could have happened without climate change anyways. We had that drought of 1540, which was even more extreme, but it was in the distant past. So the thing is to raise the awareness that we have to decrease the vulnerability on extreme events, keeping in mind that climate change is altering these kind of events and then maybe more extreme. And to keep this in mind, but so to say, this is a kind of misconception somehow. I've heard it. If we just lower down our emissions or even cut them down and suck out the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, we'll be safe off with extreme events. That's complete nonsense. But this is some narrative that some are in the mind. But I think it's dangerous because it lives in a not existing safety. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any comment or question? Yes.
Thank you. Hi, that was more for Francesca, right? Yeah, because I wanted to talk about the role of forecasts. Yeah, of course they're important, but I was a bit struck by your slide when you showed how far wrong were the ECMWF forecast of the day before, even the day about the precipitation amounts. And so in the Union Civil Protection at Regione Marche, do you have it before and after this at operational level of like how you rely on such forecasts? Did you somehow change the way of daily work and be prepared to, or nothing changed? And anyway, what is your relationship with forecasts in general?
Well,
yeah,
we still believe in forecasts, well, at least because I work in the forecast centers, but we were aware that also there is a high uncertainty in this kind of event, especially, well, in the summer, we saw that we had more and more difficulties to forecast thunderstorms, heavy thunderstorms, not such as this event extended like this event, but anyway, we had many problems to forecast local concentrate thunderstorm because we had a signal, but we didn't know where and how. So it's also difficult to transmit that to the population. We alert a old zone for thunderstorm, for concentrate thunderstorm, but we didn't know where, So there is always a discussion with municipality. Is you give us an alert for a yellow alert for thunderstorm, but it is sun over our municipality. But they didn't know that close to the other municipality there is, a high thunderstorm that affect even if in local way. So what's happened after these events? Well, all my colleagues, we are more intentional after when we do forecasts because, this big event effect, has because there is also an investigation on that. So of course we are less relaxed when we do forecasts. We are under pressure. That's true. But we love our work, so we still continue to work in the same way and try to enhance our capability, also to focus to try to do a better forecast and to improve our operative procedure and our products. So it was also a challenge to improve ourselves and our center, and probably to push the politician to give us also the tools for improve that, because also they were pushed to us more response. But well, I hope it will happen. I hope also to have more people that will work with us in our center, because we are few person, and usually politics realize that we exist only when there is a big problem like that. So, well, I'm usually a positive, so I hope that it will help us to improve more our center, and, the research will help us to have more product that we could use really. So really give us some operative product that we can really use, because, offline are all wonderful product, but when you need to use that in real time, and in few times, we need this product really that could be maybe easier, maybe simplified, but that can help us on monitoring phase and both on the forecast phase.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your presentation, but I don't want to try to defend the CMWF, but did you use also probabilistic tool, or you only use the deterministic forecast? And because of course, thunderstorm, perhaps CMWF is not right. Did you use also other model, or are you plan to use also, perhaps, I don't know, the verification can be very, very useful, but are you trying to combine your forecast using a new product or new models? Because, for example, in Agenzia Italia Meteo, they plan to use 7, if I have correctly understood, different local model, and I would like to know your experience on this.
Yes, we use both. Well, I just simplified the meteorological forecast that we use, but we saw different limited area model. We saw some when we use, of course, SMWF, and we use also the probabilistic scenarios, both in meteorological and hydrological forecasts. But in this event, we're enough. Of course, on thunderstorm, we're 2 or 3 years. We're trying also to work more on index, on stream events. So, well, our meteorologists are working on that, of course. But it's still not sufficient.
Work in progress. If I remember well, for instance, in the 2021 floods in Germany, that was a relatively similar case, exceptional precipitation and so on. The large-scale meteorological models, or let's say weather models, were working much better, but still the sea protection was strained. They had a lot of problems. So it's clear that, however, prepared we are also from the technological perspective, there are events that will always exceed the capabilities of local practitioners. So we have to work as much as possible in the prevention. At the same time, taking into account that there is a residual risk that has to be managed with information, with especially, I would say, with information, because to me, it's still actually not completely understandable that there are people that seems they don't know, or they are actually going to save their car during a flood. And I've seen it happening in Genova, which is my town, for years. It's not like a new behavior. So definitely we really have to work a lot on this type of information and awareness.
But perhaps it is not our goal. I mean,
it's not our job, but
we have other, otherwise we have to do everything. Difficult.
Absolutely.
Perhaps we need to have more multidisciplinary project to work together with the engineer, with the journalist. We need to involve them in our project.
Yes.
Sorry. I would say that perhaps when we think to our next project, we need to involve also this community, the architect, the engineer, I don't know, people, of course, but perhaps we need to work all together, because this is not our goal. We are not expert of communication. And I don't think that we need to work also on this. We need to make our work, and perhaps we need to collaborate with the other. Perhaps we need to be clear on what we can do, and we need also to involve the journalists explaining better. I don't know, perhaps we have also explained it very well, but they don't want to understand. I don't know which is the problem, but I think that this is not also the communication is not our goal. We need to try to push the society to work all together, but also for vulnerability, we can try to have agreement with the epidemiological local center and so on, but we cannot make this analysis for them. Otherwise, it's too heavy for us, I think. We are also not expert on this, to be very, very honest.
It's clear each one has its own thematic focus. Already working together or even just discussing together, I think it's a good step in the right direction. You have a final comment, Virgis?
No, not a final comment, but an additional comment. This is the approach of the risk governance. So additional to the integrated risk management, we have to implement the approach of the risk governance. So to collaborate with other actors, with the whole community, with municipality, with engineers, with the research centers, also with to change or to improve the legal framework. So in this holistic aspect, we have to improve the whole collaboration. So only with this we can manage these aspects.
That was really good final comment. I like it. If there are no other questions from the audience here or online, I think we can close the panel discussion. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here and discussing with us.